The relationship between my husband and his parents is somewhat distorted. His father, his mother, and my husband. It's like three pieces forcibly pushed together, and if one is missing, the whole thing collapses. I had such a bad feeling about it. His father passed away 3 years after my husband, John, and I got married. He always took medication for high blood pressure, so it was probably a heart attack caused by that. His father was like a strict teacher, and John was always told to aim to be the best since he was young. Being raised rather leniently by ordinary parents, I never experienced the kind of tension he faced. It's harsh to say, but it seemed like he was finally set free. That's what John's profile seemed to say as he looked at his father's portrait. But being set free doesn't necessarily mean things will go in a good direction. John fell deep into the swamp of gambling. John is a salesman at a major corporation. Both of us work, and we live together with his parents. After setting aside money for savings and living expenses, we were free to use the rest of our salaries as we like. There should have been enough for his pocket money. But John started pouring his money into gambling, and when that wasn't enough, he first dipped into our living expenses. Expenses for meals with colleagues, covering entertainment costs. The reasons varied, but once he started lying, it was all downhill from there. I felt sorry for him. I read gambling addiction will improve if it is thoroughly managed by those around it. So, I tried every method I could think of for his rehabilitation. Abandoning someone you once loved is heart-wrenching. But in the end, when I said I would manage the household finances, he just yelled, "Are you kidding me? You're trying to take my money," and refused. I explained to him about gambling addiction, but he got furious, saying, "Are you treating me like a sick person? I just spend a little money to relieve stress." All I could do was warn him, but he said, "You're not my mother to nag me like that. Living expenses are necessary money for living, right? I need gambling," and he shamelessly began using the money. 3 months after his father's death, John started pouring his entire salary into gambling. My mother-in-law was completely unaware of John's situation. John never showed his bad side to mother-in-law. To him, she was the complete opposite of his father, always pampering and comforting him. He probably wanted to avoid being disliked by her at all costs. I think John makes excuses about his gambling because he feels guilty somewhere inside. So, who gets blamed? The answer is me, his wife. Mother-in-law never liked me to begin with. She doted on her only son John, pampering him because his father was strict. After hearing about my interference from John, mother-in-law lectured me, "Emily, I heard from John. You shouldn't always criticize what your husband does. A wife is supposed to support her husband. I'm his mother, so I know everything about John. He's sensitive. He's not the kind to say harsh words, but you make him say you're nagging. You're really the worst wife." Mother-in-law would say such mean things to my face. But gambling needs to be properly rehabilitated. Oh, you're making a big deal out of it. A little gambling here and there is just socializing for men, right? Instead of sticking your nose in too much, why don't you polish your housekeeping skills? I've checked your room occasionally, and it's a mess. Dust everywhere. What, you entered my room without permission? Is that why some of my clothes are missing? Oh, is that a problem? This house is mine now. Now that Dad's gone, I can do as I like. I should be thanked for throwing out the unnecessary stuff. Before I could argue back, mother-in-law left with a loud laugh. After his father's death, mother-in-law changed too. Her malice became more apparent, not just mean comments, but also rummaging through my room and throwing away my belongings. When I complained to John, he accused me, "Are you calling my mom a thief? You probably lost it yourself. Are you trying to use this as an excuse to ask me for stuff?" Instead of believing me, he just yelled at me. Why did I put up with such a man, just because we were married? This thought grew stronger every day. And finally, when I discovered John had dipped into our savings for the future, something in me snapped. Let's get a divorce. That was the only option. It was absurd to keep enduring this. But would John, who treated me like a free housekeeper, easily agree to a divorce? As I hesitated, unexpected help came my way. "Hey, Emily? I have a favor to ask, my mother-in-law said in a cajoling tone. Would you divorce John? Of course, it's sudden, so I'll pay you alimony. How about $50,000? Divorce with alimony? I thought I was dreaming, but a pinch on my leg confirmed it was real. I know you still have feelings for John. You always made me the bad one to get his attention. But you two are mismatched. John is tired of your nagging and lies. And the money you both saved, didn't you spend it on your own, even though you said it was for future kids? What? I was too stunned to speak. It seemed John had blamed his embezzlement on me. John is forgiving, so he's letting it go. Being called the worst wife by his own mother would look bad, right? So, $50,000 is hush money. I almost screamed that it was all John's lies. But then, an idea crossed my mind. It's distasteful, but if I keep quiet, I could get a divorce with alimony. If it's mother-in-law's suggestion, John wouldn't refuse it. Understood. I happily accept your offer. I can't thank you enough for your kindness. I forced a smile and managed to say that. With mother-in-law leading, the divorce was quickly finalized. Not all the savings were gone, so I secured my share. Just in case, I got a written agreement about the alimony from mother-in-law, but it was promptly transferred, so I was relieved. The money must have come from my father-in-law's inheritance. I rented a place near my office, living alone. With a coveted walk-in wardrobe and loft. The power of money is incredible. Thanks to renting a nice place, the treatment from John and mother-in-law faded from my memory quickly. Mother-in-law contacted me 5 months after the divorce. I realized I hadn't changed my phone number. As I fiddled with my phone, she pleaded. Emily, please, help me. I was startled as she clung to me over the phone. I regret kicking you out. Please, help me. Mother-in-law began explaining her situation. The whole reason my mother-in-law urged me to divorce in the first place was because John said, I want to live just with you, Mom. John probably only told her about my nagging, keeping his gambling habit hidden. Mother-in-law, happy with her beloved son's words, didn't see his ulterior motive. After I left, John said, you can trust me with the finances, put the house in my name. It was going to be his inheritance anyway. Mother-in-law agreed without hesitation. But that was her mistake. Once the house was in his name, John took out a mortgage against it. Mother-in-law found out about the situation just 2 days ago. A foreclosure notice from a financial institution arrived, and that's how everything came to light. When she confronted John, it turned out he had repeatedly missed repayments, and it had been over 3 months since the last one. It was all gambling debt. The inheritance from his father, the savings, his salary. She was astounded when John said he had spent all the available money. What sealed mother-in-law's fate was his callous remark, Dad's inheritance should still have your share, right? With that, there won't be a foreclosure for a while. Mother-in-law replied that there was no such money left. It had gone towards my alimony and luxury goods. Then, an infuriated John yelled at her, why did you pay alimony to her behind my back? Give it back. $50,000, are you out of your mind? Eventually, mother-in-law contacted me, demanding I return the $50,000. Even if you ask me to return it now, it's a problem. I have a written agreement. There's no reason for me to return it. While talking, I remembered how mother-in-law had treated me and started feeling angry. Mother-in-law's humility ended there. How can you be so cold? When family desperately asks for help, you should naturally say yes, out of pity. You're really the worst person. Heartless. I repeatedly pointed out John's gambling habit and wanted to do something about it. You ignored it and laughed it off, calling me exaggerated. Who's the worst here? To talk about family now, really? That's because I didn't know. It couldn't be helped. If you had spoken up stronger, I would have listened. It's your fault. Do something about this. That selfish attitude, really like mother, like son. Weren't you the mother who knew everything? I didn't touch the savings, it was all your son's lies. You couldn't see through him, and that's your own doing. Now you're asking me to fix it? I'm just fed up. Thanks to you, we're strangers now. As I pressed on, mother-in-law fell silent. I'll claim the $50,000 was stolen by you. I'll sue you. I sighed heavily at her shallow thinking. With what you just said, it'll be obvious it's a false claim. I recorded this call, just in case. What did you say? It's a call from a mother-in-law who kicked me out, right? It's only natural to expect it to be nothing good. There's no way she could claim I stole it, especially with a written agreement. After I added that, mother-in-law completely shut up. Are we done here? Please resolve this with your beloved son. If I get another ridiculous call like this, I'll consult a lawyer and take it as far as necessary. Be prepared. With that emphasis, I hung up the phone. There were no more contacts from mother-in-law, but John did ask to get back together. Due to repeated delays in payment and eventually stopping altogether, the family home was auctioned off. The mother and son duo were evicted, and it turned out John had also borrowed money from several colleagues, which became known at the company. His sudden change of address and rumors of debt disrupted the company atmosphere, leading to his removal from the sales position, and his salary plummeted. Hey, come back to me. Mom and I can't make it on our own. Living in a small apartment with his mother, scrimping and saving, harassed by phone and email for repayment, he seemed to be under a lot of stress. I tried to help you. But you not only refused to do so, you yelled at me with terrible words. Who would want to go back to those days? Don't be ridiculous. You deserve what you're getting now. I wondered why I hadn't changed my phone number sooner. Yet, being able to say my piece to John at the end might have been a good thing, after all. The family changed after the father-in-law's absence. Maybe John's life, dominated by his father, was pitiable. But in the end, it was he himself who was liberated and corrupted. Will the crumbled pieces ever come back together? It's no longer my concern. My name is Karen Smith. I am a fledgling designer who works for a design agency and specializes in wedding dresses. Karen, bring the fabric I specified. Okay. And please order more fabric. Understood. Even though I'm a designer, I'm still doing menial tasks and spend my days sighing as I watch my seniors create dresses. I wish I could make beautiful dresses soon too. But as a newcomer, I don't get much design work yet. I need to become a pro fast. As I pump myself up, a senior next to me chuckles softly. What's so funny? It's just, you're so you. In response to the senior's words, the other seniors around us also start giggling. What do you mean, so me? It means you're working hard. Design needs to be unique, and you're fine just the way you are. The senior says, laughing and gently patting my head. I'm treated like a kid because I'm still new, but the office has a good working environment. However, the path to becoming a designer is still long. It's a challenging profession where, even with talent, finding opportunities to showcase it is difficult. No matter how hard I work, I'm not sure if I'll be rewarded. But I have a compelling reason to become a designer. Won't make the deadline, will I? After finishing work, I return to my apartment and gaze at the mannequin, head tilted. The mannequin is wearing a partially finished dress. Actually, I'm attending a wedding in a few months. The bride is the daughter of a famous bridal company's president and a designer at the company, and I'm making a wedding dress for her. She's an acquaintance who asked me personally to make a custom dress. It's a big wedding in the bridal industry. Naturally, dresses by famous designers are prepared, and she's planning several outfit changes, with my dress being one of them. I feel crushed with nervousness and anxiety at the thought of my unknown dress mixing with famous designers. I wonder if Chloe will like this dress. But when I imagine her wearing it, I can't help but smile. Chloe and I have a special bond. She chose me among many designers to design her dress for such an important occasion, and I want to make her happy no matter what. I'm determined to create a dress that suits Chloe perfectly. But there's another worry on my mind. It's about the designer she's marrying. In our not-so-large industry, both good and bad news spread quickly. And about that designer, despite his good work skills, he's known for being selfish, ignoring clients' requests, always missing deadlines, and being lax about contracts. I've never heard anything good about him. Regarding this marriage, I've heard it was decided after a dinner that was like a matchmaking date, where they liked each other, but rumors suggest it wasn't true love. Instead, it was because Chloe's wealthy parents aggressively pursued his also wealthy parents. All I hear are such stories. Is she really okay, marrying someone like that? Holding pure white lace in my hand, I let out my worries. I just want Chloe to be happy. Though I'm anxious about her unclear future with her partner and the wedding day itself, all I can do is finish this dress. I made the dress, hoping for her happiness, in between work and studying my own designs. Then, on the wedding day, wearing my favorite vintage dress and carrying the finished dress, I head to the bride's room. Wow! It's beautiful. Chloe, in her pure white wedding dress adorned with delicate lace and embroidery, looked at herself in the mirror and seemed truly happy. I'm so glad I asked you to make this. Sorry for making you wait until the last minute. No, it's more than I imagined. Thank you so much. I managed to complete the dress a week before the wedding and rushed to deliver it. Until today, I worried if she would like it, but seeing her spin around and show it off, I knew my efforts paid off. This dress won't look out of place among those designed by famous designers. One of my worries was gone. But the other still remained. I haven't seen the groom around. It's been over an hour since I arrived, and I haven't seen the groom even once. When I asked, Chloe just gave a wry smile. He's running late. What do you mean? The wedding is about to start, and one of the main characters, the groom, is missing. It can't be helped. He's the match my parents chose. Maybe he doesn't care about me. Chloe smiled sadly, and I felt sad realizing those rumors might be true. Even if you owe your parents, you don't have to marry someone you don't love, right? I suddenly spoke up, even though I hadn't asked about her situation before. I thought it was presumptuous of me, but I couldn't keep silent. Hesitantly, I spoke my mind, and Chloe seemed to understand how I felt. She smiled reassuringly. It's okay. I chose this. So, no regrets. I was at a loss for words at Chloe's response. I guess you've heard a lot of rumors, huh? Chloe continued to explain, seeing my silence. This marriage was somewhat like a political arrangement. Her father's bridal company had been underperforming for years, and this marriage was to cover the losses using the groom's family's wealth. It made me wonder if it's really what parents should do. But ultimately, I was the one who decided to marry. So, don't worry. Chloe smiled confidently, and I searched for the right words to say. Just then. Hey. Is Chloe here? The groom suddenly entered the room, without even knocking. He was wearing a tuxedo, but reeked of alcohol. Where have you been until now? Even Chloe, who had been cheerful until then, frowned at his state. Ah, I was celebrating until late last night. Huh? What's with that dress? The design isn't bad, but it looks kinda cheap. Weren't there better dresses? The groom, without any embarrassment, lifted the edge of the dress and commented, laughing. This was designed by Karen here. Don't say rude things. Huh? You're telling me I paid for this tacky dress? I can't believe it. When he realized I was the designer, he glared at me fiercely. Then, looking me up and down, he laughed mockingly at the dress I was wearing. What an old-fashioned dress. You're a designer, aren't you? How can you wear something so tacky? I was speechless at his incredibly rude remarks. Got something to say? If you have a problem, speak up. Apparently, my silence annoyed the groom, and he snapped at me. So, I cleared my throat, ready to respond. This is a vintage dress designed by Julia Smith. Is my grandmother's design that tacky to you? The moment I said that, the groom's face turned pale. Julia Smith, you mean the legendary designer? You're her granddaughter? Yes. My name is Karen Smith. By the way, Chloe's maiden name is also Smith, but you didn't know that, did you? Wait, what? Chloe is from the Smith family? No way. It's true. Karen and I are sisters. You know I was adopted, right? I was sent to my adoptive parents by our grandmother because they couldn't have children of their own. Chloe's calm voice left the groom speechless. Julia Smith, our grandmother, was a world-famous wedding dress designer. Chloe and I were separated when I was 10 and she was 8. We were too young to understand why Chloe had to live away from our family. We begged not to be separated, and Chloe pleaded with our parents to stay. But despite our wishes, our grandmother's decision was final, and we were parted. Before separating, we made a secret promise to each other to prove the adults who separated us wrong someday. So, I pursued a career in design to become more famous than our grandmother, and Chloe, who was adopted, studied hard to eventually go to college to learn business management under the owner of a bridal company, which was once owned by our grandmother. That's ridiculous. Chloe let out a sigh, as if to drive the point home, looking at the confused groom. You have talent in design, but you lack knowledge. Our grandmother may have retired long ago, but she was a top-class designer in the world. Can't you recognize the dress of such a designer? You can't compensate for a lack of knowledge with talent alone, can you? No, this is. The groom tried to make an excuse, but Chloe, watching him, shook her head in disbelief. I've decided to call off this wedding. What? What are you talking about, Chloe? You insulted my sister and grandmother's dresses. I can't trust someone like you to revive our struggling company. The groom's eyes widened in shock, then he sneered defiantly. You say that, but if you call off the wedding, you'll be the one in trouble, right? Can your company survive without my family's support? He said this as if he had one, but Chloe remained calm and continued. Don't worry about that. If you're not going to be the president, then I will be. I've studied business management for years. It's much better than leaving it to you. Right? I can't see someone who calls Julia Smith's dresses tacky being capable of reviving a bridal company. You think so too, sister? Calling off the wedding with him is the right choice. There are plenty of ways to cover the deficit without marrying him. As we continued talking about calling off the wedding, the groom became visibly panicked. Wait a minute. You can't just call off a wedding on the day of the wedding. Then let's have the wedding and divorce afterward. That should be fine, right? Chloe remained composed, and the groom, pale-faced, covered his face with his hands, slumping in defeat. I couldn't help but think he got what he deserved. The wedding went ahead as planned. The groom apologized to me deeply, still looking pale. Chloe, wearing my dress, walked down the aisle with her head held high. She looked truly beautiful. I wondered if she would be okay. Still, I couldn't help but have these thoughts cross my mind. But seeing her like that, all my worries disappeared. Though I had no real reason, I was convinced she would be just fine. Several months passed. Just as she said in the dressing room, Chloe became the president of the company. Without needing support from that groom's family, the company's deficit seems to be recovering. I thought the divorce would go smoothly, but surprisingly, her marriage with him was still continuing. When my work settled down, Chloe invited me to dinner, and we met at a restaurant. She looked much happier than before her marriage. Even so, I'm surprised you didn't split up. You're still working, right? And he's the main designer? Is the company really okay? It's fine. He's completely changed since then, like a different person. He's studying hard every day now. Maybe my words and my threat to divorce made a difference. While he had his issues, he always had the talent for creating new designs. After our encounter, he seemed to have realized the need for study and effort, and Chloe happily told me he's probably becoming a better designer than before. But are you really happy, marrying someone you don't even like? Well, it's not that I dislike him, you know. I was surprised by her unexpected response, and Chloe looked slightly troubled. To be honest, when my parents suggested marrying him, I felt a bit lucky. I always liked the dresses he designed and recognized his talent. He behaves properly when it counts, but you know his usual attitude? I always thought if he could just fix that part. At the wedding, I was really angry with how he treated you, and I was serious about calling it off. But after that, when I became president, he started studying earnestly and his designs improved rapidly. Thanks to you, we gained another capable designer. I really appreciate it. Hearing Chloe's words, I was convinced that both the company and he were in safe hands. You've always been so strong. It was the same when her adoption was decided. Unlike me, who just cried, it was Chloe who suggested we prove the adults wrong. I can be strong because of the promise I made with you. I can keep going now to fulfill our promise. The dress you made for the wedding was truly beautiful, even more so than grandmother's. Her words made me feel so happy, I almost cried. I wonder if we can surpass grandmother. You're sounding uncharacteristically timid. Now that I'm the president, it's time to make your name famous. Get ready for a busy time ahead. We looked at each other and started laughing. Then, we gently reached for our champagne glasses. Here's to your company and married life. And to you surpassing our grandmother as a designer. Cheers. We toasted each other and finished our dinner. I wondered how we would be the next time we met. Imagining our future, I couldn't help but smile. Hey, you've got a spare room at your place, right? It was a call from my brother, who lives with our mom. This Saturday, I'm bringing mom over to your place. Take care of us. What? Wait, what do you mean? My name is Alice. I'm 45, living with my husband and our son. Our son, Ethan, is in 8th grade. He's a bit sassy and in his rebellious phase, but we get along as a family despite all. Then, an incident occurs in our household. It happened about a year after we had built our dream home. Out of the blue, my brother, who lives with our mom, contacted me. His first words were like this: I can't live with her anymore. Confused by his irritated tone, I tried to ask what was going on. But my brother, not elaborating and sounding angry, said to me, "You've got a spare room, right?" Indeed, when we built our house, we included a guest room, and my brother and his wife knew about it because we invited them when it was completed. But I was baffled by his sudden request. Yet, without listening to what I had to say, he just stated his purpose. This Saturday, I'm bringing mom over, so be ready. What? Wait, what do you mean? I asked back, but in the next moment he hung up the phone. My brother has always been like this. Self-centered and overbearing, he is always expecting mom and me to bend to his will. Our father was a strict man and used to reprimand him, teaching him to respect our mom and to cherish his sister, but our father passed away a long time ago. After our father's death, my brother and his wife moved in with our mother, who had been living alone in our family home. When I heard about it, I rushed back home to talk to them. My brother explained that he moved because his job was relocated within commuting distance to our family home. His wife added, somewhat as an afterthought, "It's worrying to leave your mother-in-law alone, right? This sister-in-law of mine is quite the character. She's 10 years younger than my brother, and even I admit she's beautiful. She worked at a nightclub, where she met my brother as a customer. I never understood what she saw in him, but they're a couple united by their love for money. My brother, thinking he's the rightful heir to our family home as the eldest son, and his wife, considering herself superior to me despite being younger, because she's the wife of the eldest son. I never liked my brother and his wife much, but my mom, ever the optimist, preferred their company to living alone. It's hard to cook just for myself. Perhaps she had a point. I was concerned about her, but couldn't visit our family home that often. I thought if they were fine with it, then it was okay. But what could have happened? When my husband, Tom, came home and I discussed it with him, he readily agreed to welcome my mom. In fact, he was even concerned about her. I tried calling the next day, but mom didn't answer, and she didn't respond to multiple attempts. Eventually, the weekend arrived. Hearing a car outside, I stepped out to see my brother's car pulling up with mom inside. As I greeted them, mom got out of the car. My brother, after unloading her luggage, climbed back into the driver's seat. His wife, without even getting out of the passenger seat or greeting anyone, was busy with her phone. My brother, rolling down his window, just raised his hand towards me. "All right then, take care." What? Before I could say anything, my brother's car was already gone. Reluctantly, I started taking my mom's luggage inside when my husband, Tom, came out. "Where's your brother?" Well, he just dropped off the stuff and left right away. I see. Tom kindly took the luggage from my mom and me. Welcome. Let's have some tea inside. Tom, I'm sorry for the sudden trouble. Mom said apologetically, but Tom welcomed her with a smile. In the living room, our son, Ethan, was waiting. Grandma, long time no see. Ever since my brother and his wife moved into my mom's house, visiting had become awkward, so the last time Ethan saw her was when he started middle school. Seeing how much taller Ethan had grown in just a year, Mom was surprised. I was truly grateful that both my husband and son welcomed Mom so warmly. Later, when things settled, I asked Mom about the situation. Apparently, my brother's wife had bluntly told her to leave. She works at night and wants to sleep during the day, but Mom's presence and the noise of her daily activities were disturbing her rest. Wasn't there an option for them to move out? I suggested they could rent a nicer apartment instead of this old house. But my daughter-in-law said it's a waste of money. What do you mean? What did my brother say? He insists that as the eldest son, it's his duty to live in this house. Mom's words trailed off. I had assumed that they were at least paying rent. But it turns out they weren't, and their contribution to living expenses was minimal. Mom had been bearing most of the costs. I was shocked to learn this fact, and anger towards my brother and his wife began to boil inside me. But I couldn't bear to let Mom stay in such a place. For now, she would stay with us. About staying here, I want to contribute to the household expenses each month. To which Tom promptly replied, "We can't take money from family. Please don't worry about it." Tom lost his mother at a young age and grew up with just his dad, so he thinks of my mom as his own. But Mom wouldn't back down despite Tom's words. We were at an impasse, so I proposed a compromise. "How about you take care of dinner, Mom? That way, I can work a bit more at my part-time job, and it would really help me out." And so, our new life began. The next morning, I woke up to a familiar and comforting smell from the kitchen. The table was set with breakfast. I told her I could do it, but she laughed, saying she needed something to do to pass the time. Tom and Ethan woke up, surprised and delighted, and left for the day after enjoying breakfast. After they left, Mom said to me, feelingly, "Everyone says thank you and delicious, even thanks for the meal." Apparently, my brother and his wife took her cooking for granted, never showing gratitude or interest. And sometimes they would even leave without eating, being very picky about food. Mom, who was always cheerful and optimistic, had looked a bit down when she arrived yesterday, but she was quickly returning to her usual bright self. Since Mom's arrival, our home has been getting cleaner and cleaner. Just because it's a new house doesn't mean you can slack off. It'll get dirty quickly. She'd say that, and every time I came back from work, something in the house would be sparkling clean. This made the whole family more conscious, and we started to keep our house cleaner. Our home became more comfortable since Mom came to stay with us. This new way of life continued for about a month, but one Sunday, my brother and his wife suddenly showed up at our house. Reluctantly, I let them into the living room, where they were surprised by how clean the house was. Then they said something outrageous. "We want Mom back." What? According to my brother, without Mom, there's no one to clean the house or cook, so they've been eating out all the time. His wife, who had been messing with her phone, started to complain as well. "We don't even understand the trash days, and we're eating more convenience store meals, so I've gained weight and my skin's breaking out. That's why we've come to take Mom back." I couldn't hold back my anger at their attitude anymore. You know, Mom is not an object. This isn't about returning her or not. My sister-in-law laughed at my reaction. "Why are you getting mad? We're just here to pick up our mother-in-law, right? Don't be ridiculous. Mom's living here now and she's not going back. And you too, living in Mom's house without paying rent, need to start paying up. Why should we pay rent? As the eldest son's family, it's fine for us to live there, right? And you, a younger sister, lecturing me, the wife of the eldest son?" I got even more infuriated by her attitude. What's so great about being the wife of the eldest son? That house is my family home too. I don't want someone like you living there. What? I'm married to your brother, you know? If I hadn't, he would have been single forever. My sister-in-law then dropped a bombshell. I thought we wouldn't have money troubles because the family home seemed wealthy, and he's totally smitten with me. I've got plenty of men to entertain me elsewhere. I'm not short of male attention. I couldn't believe my ears. Was she admitting to infidelity? Naturally, my brother exploded in anger. Are you saying you're cheating on me? She looked caught for a moment, but then became defiant. Of course, I cheat. How else could I live with you? You have no redeeming qualities. Thanks to my father, our family home was quite prosperous. He left an inheritance, so Mom could live comfortably. My brother bragged about our family's wealth at his wife's workplace, and she had targeted him for that reason. She wanted the money and the status of being the wife of the eldest son. Their moving in with Mom was under the assumption that they would offload all the household and financial burdens onto her. These two hopeless individuals were still arguing in front of us. Then Mom stepped in. Enough. If you're going to keep living in that house, I'll be charging appropriate rent. I'm the legal owner, after all. My brother, who never expected our mom to stand up to him, was overwhelmed by her assertiveness and quickly apologized. Sorry, Mom. But I'm divorcing her. What? What are you talking about now? They started arguing again, and I couldn't stand it any longer. Take your ridiculous fight outside. I don't care whether you get divorced or not. But if you're still in that house in a week, sign a lease agreement. From now on, you'll be paying rent to Mom. With that, I kicked them out of our house. A week later, my brother came alone. He apologized to us and Mom, admitting he was wrong. His wife had moved out, and he was going through a lawyer to divorce and demand alimony. We decided to tidy up our family home and put it up for sale. Mom felt lonely in the big house by herself, and my brother might be transferring, so he was moving out too. It's sad to lose our family home, but I'm glad that Mom feels comfortable in our house now. 6 months have passed, and my brother seems to be doing well on his own in a new place. He occasionally contacts us to ask about Mom. As for my sister-in-law, she paid the alimony in one lump sum and is now sending monthly payments to Mom, acknowledging the trouble she caused. I was surprised by my brother's change of heart, and more than anything, relieved to be rid of that former sister-in-law. As for our home, thanks to Mom, we're still living comfortably as ever. Recently, Ethan has been inspired by my mom to take an interest in cooking, learning recipes from her and increasingly preparing meals for us. Tom, the pillar of our family, says he really appreciates this environment. I can't express enough gratitude for his decision to live with my mom. Settling into this life has been truly wonderful. Looks like I've saved up quite a bit. I, Cassie, am smirking at my cell phone with a suspicious laugh. I've just turned 29, a working housewife in my second year of marriage. Even if my colleagues find my smirking creepy, I can't help it. After all, I'm finally close to saving enough to build my long-awaited dream home. The bank account balance displayed on my cell phone is nearing the target amount. My husband, Max, whom I married after an office romance, and we don't have children yet. We've always planned to have kids after building our home. I wanted to enjoy being single a bit longer, but at 27, I married Max, who was in his mid-30s and insistent. Working at the same place as my husband, albeit in different departments, is awkward. But changing jobs would definitely mean a lower salary. So, I've been persevering, and now I'm just a step away from buying our home. It's been a long journey. There are no particular issues between my husband and me, work is going well, and so is our savings. Living an ordinary life, working a regular job, and buying a plain home. Continuing such an average life is what I consider my greatest happiness. But life doesn't always go smoothly. For me, the biggest problem is my relationship with my in-laws. This is the most challenging aspect of my marriage. After finishing work, I return to our rented apartment. It's a bit cramped for two, but we're enduring it until we save enough for our home. The moment I open the front door and see those shoes, my fatigue instantly multiplies. They're here again today. I sigh heavily in my heart. I'm home. Oh, you're back. You're late today. The one who responded to my announcement of returning home wasn't my husband, Max. It was my mother-in-law, heavily seated on the sofa installed in our cramped apartment. Good evening. Do you always come home this late? Our in-laws live just 3 train stops away. Not too far, but uncomfortably close. That's why my mother-in-law often visits our home without considering the distance. Coming home this late, what about Max's dinner? It's always like this. No words of comfort for my late return from work, just complaints from my mother-in-law. I'm sorry, work was busy. I'll prepare something right away. Max has been home for a while now. Cassie, aren't you inefficient? Even though we work at the same company, Max's and my departments are entirely different. Max's department hardly ever has overtime. But, as a trade-off, the pay is lower. My department is critical to the company, with many important projects that can't be finished without overtime. As a result, my salary is the highest in the company. I don't bring this up myself, and I wish Max would, but maybe his pride gets in the way. He never says anything. Right now, he's just silently sipping his tea. Since we both work, I think Max could help a bit with the housework. But he steadfastly does nothing. Shopping, laundry, cleaning, preparing the bath, and cooking. When he comes home from work, he's either watching TV or fiddling with his cell phone. Unaware of all this, my mother-in-law, as usual, came to criticize me today. It's fine, I already had dinner with Max. You already ate? We had some delicious sushi. I treated Max to something nice for a change. I see. I nearly jumped when I heard the name of the sushi restaurant. Isn't that a high-end place? I was surprised, but since my mother-in-law paid, I decided to let it go and started to head to the kitchen to prepare my own dinner. But my mother-in-law stopped me. Cassie. I hate to ask, but could you do me a favor? I had a bad feeling. I'm a bit strapped for cash this month, could you lend me some? Just as I thought. My mother-in-law often asks for money like this. I wanted to say, wait a minute, that's not right. You went to a high-end sushi restaurant, right? And last month, you said you were struggling and begged for money. I reluctantly gave you $300, even though we're also tight on cash. And the month before that, and the one before that. Aren't you being a bit inefficient? But I held back and forced a strained smile. I'm sorry, we're also struggling this month. Can't you do anything for your struggling parents? What a cold daughter-in-law. Who's the cold one here? Your son, who doesn't help around the house, leaves his wife alone and goes out to eat sushi, seems much colder to me. At that moment, my husband Max finally spoke. Cassie's greedy. Mom's in trouble, can't you help her a bit? Really? We're struggling that much this month, aren't we? See, Mom? I'll help you. Saying that with a sigh, Max took out his wallet and handed $500 to his mother. Well, Max is such a kind and wonderful son. Unlike Cassie. Stunned, I watched as my mother-in-law glared at me and then headed for the door. Thinking she was leaving, I felt relieved, but then she turned and glared at me again. Max, if you ever want to divorce your money-grubbing wife, you're always welcome to come back home. I'll think about it. With a loud bang, my mother-in-law closed the door and left. What do you mean by that? I turned around to find Max already lying on the sofa with his cell phone. I confronted him. Why did you give her $500? If we have that much spare cash, why not contribute to the household? I had a reason for saying this. While Max pays the rent for this apartment, that's all he does. I pay for utilities, communication, food, and miscellaneous expenses. Simply because Max refuses to contribute. What are you talking about? I pay the rent, don't I? You want more than that? What a greedy woman. That's how Max always avoids contributing financially. I'm paying for everything else, including the cell phone bill you're holding right now. It's only natural. You earn more than me. But I only make a little more than your salary. We're barely making ends meet with living expenses and savings. Oh. You have enough to save? Then you should be fine. Look. Max, reacting to my mention of savings, suddenly reached out his hand. What's with this hand? I gave my mother $500, and now I'm out of money. Give me some spending cash. What? You've got to be kidding. Despite keeping all his salary except for the rent, Max always claims to be short on money each month. He used to say, a man has to entertain and socialize, and I reluctantly gave in, but not today. Why should I pay for your and your mother's sushi? Why do I have to pay for that? It's a way of showing respect to parents. What about me? Neither my mother-in-law nor Max ever appreciates me. It's just a loss on my end. And what was that about considering divorce? That's exactly what it means. If you keep being so stingy, I might have to think about it. With that, Max locked himself in the bedroom. He even locked the door. In our small apartment, there aren't many rooms. With the bedroom locked, I had no choice but to sleep on the sofa. In these stressful days, my only comfort is looking at my bank account balance. After enduring another round of sarcasm and financial demands from my mother-in-law, I opened my cell phone before starting overtime at work. I logged into my savings account I've had since I was single. Almost enough for our dream home. That's what I thought until I saw something that made me freeze. What is this? I stood up with a crash, apologized to my boss, and rushed home. Max. Are you here? What's up? You're home early today. Max looked surprised. In front of him was an array of what clearly looked like high-end sushi. And he wasn't alone. Welcome home, Cassie. We're just visiting. Both in-laws were there. Not just my mother-in-law, but my father-in-law as well. I wondered what they were doing here. What are you all doing? We're eating sushi. Want some, Cassie? Sushi? Where did the money for this come from? Oh, we had some extra income. Extra income? As I pressed them, Max and the in-laws looked taken aback. I grabbed Max by the collar as if to not let him escape, and he reluctantly handed me something. It was the bank book for the account I had just checked online. I opened it quickly. I was speechless when I saw the transaction history. What is this? How did you withdraw this? Well, I just tried what I thought might be the pin, and it worked. It worked out, huh? How dare you withdraw my money without permission? The money I had been saving diligently since my single days was withdrawn in a large amount. Furious and about to explode with anger at Max, who nonchalantly admitted to withdrawing the money without any remorse. Quiet down. We're married, aren't we? What's yours is mine. Don't joke around. This is the savings I worked hard for since before we were married. Give it back. Calm down, Cassie. What are you saying? What belongs to the wife naturally belongs to the husband. Cassie, living off Max's support while secretly saving such a large amount of money. You're really a greedy woman. Yeah, exactly. You should be more grateful to me. Who do you think you're living off? Unbelievable. There's not a single person on my side here. Don't joke. This is no different from theft. Give it back. Hey, who's joking here? He must have been startled by the word thief. Annoyed, Max said. Have you forgotten that I pay the rent here? Plus, I have a lot of entertaining and socializing to do, and I even help out my parents. Exactly. Max is such a dutiful son. You let me pay the rent, and then you go and save all this money, must be nice. You only pay the rent. There's hardly any entertaining to do. And you ask me for money while helping out your parents. Be quiet. You came here as a wife. It's only natural for you to listen to me and my parents. What? Be thankful that I haven't divorced you for being so useless. With that, Max yelled, grabbed my hand, and pushed me outside. Hey. There's no sushi for you. Go cool off outside. I never thought I'd be thrown out. After standing dumbfounded for a while, I ended up spending the night in a business hotel. The next day, when I returned home, only Max was there. I was glad the in-laws were gone, but then Max handed me a piece of paper. The paper read a statement of mutual agreement. It says that we agree to divorce if I don't listen to him. What's this? Listen, if you complain to me again, it's instant divorce. If you don't want a divorce, just obey me silently. I'll manage the savings from now on. Saying that, Max flaunted the bank book. Then he got ready to leave. Where are you going? Out for a drink. What, you have a problem? Want a divorce? He said with a smirk and left. Such a foolish man. Does he think threatening divorce will make me obey? My love for Max had completely vanished. And besides, does he really think there's still money left in the account he took? I had already withdrawn all the money and transferred it to a different account. I was uncomfortable keeping a large sum in one account, so I have multiple accounts. The bank book Max took was just one of them. I signed on the paper. Max is truly foolish. Leaving the paper is not a threat to me, it's exactly what I wanted. I quickly packed my things and left the house. I spent another night at a business hotel and then the next day. I took a day off work and reported the divorce as soon as the city office opened. Then, I headed straight to a real estate agency. In fact, last night, while browsing on my cell phone at the business hotel, I had found a property that caught my eye. A newly built detached family home, close to the station, perfect for commuting. It was almost love at first sight. Both the exterior and the interior were almost exactly what I wanted. I viewed it and decided on the spot to buy the house. After that, everything was a whirlwind. Staying in a business hotel until the move was too expensive, so I explained my situation and stayed at a friend's place while preparing for the new house. I had to start from scratch with furniture and various other arrangements. With the dizzying busyness, I completely forgot about my ex-husband and former in-laws. Hey, Cassie. So, when Max showed up at my department one day, I was startled. Oh right, we work at the same company. As Max loudly called my name, attracting everyone's attention, he walked up to me without any care. Why aren't you answering my phone calls? Ah. I just thought it wasn't important. I remembered Max's relentless calls. I was busy and it was a hassle, so I ignored them. You withdrew money from the account on your own, didn't you? Stop messing around. And why haven't you come back home? Do you really want to get divorced? Ah, it's fine. We're already divorced. And that money in the account is mine, so I can do what I want with it. He still seems to think the word a divorce is a threat. My nonchalant reply left Max looking dumbfounded. What a stupid face, it's laughable. What? Divorce, you mean? You kindly offered it for me. I gratefully accepted it. What? I don't accept this. Whether you accept it or not, the divorce is final. Oh, and I've already informed the company and completed the procedures. You might have some paperwork to do, so make sure to report it to your boss, okay? With that, I returned my gaze to my computer. I'm busy. Divorce. Where are you living now? You left your stuff at the house. I took what I needed. I'm living comfortably with new things I bought. Don't worry. Where are you living? It's none of your business. This is a matter of privacy, so please don't pry any further. With that, Max fell silent. Eventually, feeling the eyes of my colleagues and boss on him, Max left the department without a word. Cassie's got it tough, my colleagues sympathized. The comfort of my new home was the best. The smell of a new building is irreplaceable, spacious, and comfortable. But having just moved in, there were still many things I needed. Today, I was expecting the delivery of some appliances I ordered online. Then the intercom rang. Ah, it's here, I thought and opened the door. I regretted opening the door. I cursed myself for not checking the intercom. Standing there was Mother? Technically, my former mother-in-law, but I blurted it out in surprise. There stood my former mother-in-law. Right behind her was my father-in-law. And further back, Max was standing. Long time no see, Cassie. I'm coming in. Ah, wait, hold on. Ignoring my protest, my former mother-in-law barged into the house and started inspecting it as if appraising its value. This is quite a nice property. Oh, this furniture is lovely. Move it to my room, will you? Ah, there's a basement too. Nice, then this will be our room. Excuse me. What's with these curtains? Terrible taste. I'll choose them for you, so hand over the money. The garden is quite spacious. Maybe I'll start a vegetable garden. What are these people talking about? Confused, I turned to Max. Max, what is? Be grateful, Cassie. I was about to confront them when my former mother-in-law interrupted. With irritation, I looked at her victorious face. It's not much of a house, but as a gift for the parents, it's decent. If it's a two-family home, we'll move in. What? Of course, as the wife, you'll do the housework. We'll be kind and only ask for $1,000 a month for our allowance. What? What on earth is she saying? Are they from another planet? I couldn't comprehend and just tilted my head. As the wife? I'm single now, you know? Surprised look on my former mother-in-law's face. I was equally shocked. Max, you didn't tell them? I don't accept it. Max shouted, but it doesn't matter if he accepts it or not, the divorce is final. We are complete strangers now. At that, my former mother-in-law's face turned pale. What do you mean? You're abandoning us, your parents. My parents live in the countryside. I was planning to invite them over soon. Don't joke around. This house is ours. No, it's mine. What is she thinking? This house was bought with my savings, in my name. Then where are we supposed to live? I don't know, that's not my problem. Apparently, they had sold their house. The contract was already finalized. They planned to live a comfortable life in this house with the money from the sale and what they'd extort from me. What a frightening plan. I don't accept this. My former mother-in-law was still protesting, but it doesn't matter. We're strangers, and this house is mine. I won't accept it, absolutely not. She shouted and, in her anger, ripped the curtains. Hey, what are you doing? These things. I don't need such bad taste. This is my house, I'll do as I please. That's right, what's yours is mine. Everything you own is mine. Listen, I don't accept this divorce, and both my parents and I are going to live here. Max shouted this out. Oh no. This is getting out of hand. I thought, and just then, finally, I heard sirens. I had secretly called the police when Max and my former mother-in-law barged into the house. Finally, the police arrived. What are you doing? We haven't done anything wrong. That's right, if anyone should be taken, it's this woman. The three of them were obstinately shouting at the police. Don't they understand that entering someone's house uninvited is trespassing, and destroying property is vandalism? After making a scene, they weren't arrested but were taken away by the police. What a tumultuous day it had been. After being released by the police, Max continued to come by, insisting on reconciliation and getting picked up by the police each time. He even followed me at work, so after consulting with my boss, George, he received a stern warning. Misusing his wife's savings and assaulting her new home. As these actions became the talk of the office, Max was looked down upon by everyone, leading to an uncomfortable working environment and his resignation. Seemingly affected mentally, he found it hard to get re-employed. My former in-laws, having sold their house, took the money and moved into the cheap apartment where Max and I had lived. It was an old, poorly maintained place, so it wouldn't have fetched much money. The three of them will likely live there modestly with that money. Finally free from it all, I'm enjoying a comfortable life in my own home. I offered to have my parents from the countryside live with me, but they aren't ready to move yet, so for now, I'm enjoying living alone. Maybe I'll remarry if I find the right person, but for now, I'm good. For starters, I want to get a dog, something I couldn't do in the apartment. I also want to try gardening and host home parties with friends. Looking at the blue sky through the window, I think about all the things I couldn't do before and how I want to enjoy my life from now on.